Так вот на БЗ пошли. Это пиздец просто, блядь. Давай, мужики.
Я вас проложу, я сейчас старую сумку донесу.
Это пиздец, блядь. 20-я армия. Ну, эпилепсия аж случилась.
Давай автомат донесу, потом нахуй отдам.
Ебать. На костылях человек пошел на БЗ, блядь. Ты ебанулся. Ну так вот на БЗ пошли. Это пиздец просто, блядь. Давай, мужики.
Я вас проложу, я сейчас старую сумку донесу.
Это пиздец, блядь. 20-я армия. Ну, эпилепсия аж случилась.
Давай автомат донесу, потом нахуй отдам.
Ты ебать. На костылях человек пошел на БЗ, блядь. Ты ебанулся.
15 out of 16 Russian attacks failed to gain ground in Kursk oblast on Saturday, according to Forbes. Kursk oblast, a Russian region bordering Ukraine, has emerged as a critical battleground since Ukrainian forces seized a 1,000 square kilometer salient in August 2024. Control of this territory could prove to be a significant bargaining chip in any future peace negotiations, as it represents an internationally recognized Russian territory. Russian air assault forces attacked the Ukrainian garrison, rolling 8 BMD infantry fighting vehicles along the very same roads around the village of Viktorovska they've been using since November. Forbes war correspondent David Axe reports. The Russian 234th Air Assault Regiment lost half their force near Viktorovka, promoting a Ukrainian drone operator to question the tactics. I really do not understand the point of attacking at the place where they attack for the third month, said Kriegsforscher, a Marine Corps operator. The failed offensive has taken a devastating toll. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported that the combined Russian-North Korean force of 60,000 has suffered approximately 35,000 casualties trying to reclaim the salient from 20,000 Ukrainian defenders. The Russian counteroffensive in Kursk that began in earnest in November has shrunk, but not eliminated the Ukrainian-held salient. Russian President Vladimir Putin keeps pushing back the deadline for his forces to fully recapture Kursk after several revisions amid the overall failure of Russian attacks in the oblast. Last fall, the Kremlin extended the deadline to February, only to later abandon that deadline too. Don't be shocked if the Russians miss whatever the new deadline is. Saturday was a typical day along the Kursk front line. Russian and North Korean troops attacked from 16 directions, according to the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies. Just one attack resulted in any Russian gains around Viktorovka, but the Ukrainian 6th Range Regiment still controls most of the village. Bloodied and surely traumatized, some Russian troops in Kursk once again are resorting to brutal war crimes as a way of venting their frustration and, they must hope, terrorizing their Ukrainian foes. Marines from the Russian 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, one of two Russian Marine brigades that have been destroyed and rebuilt several times in the 35 months since Ukraine widened its war on Ukraine, reportedly decapitated 4 Ukrainian prisoners and displayed the heads on pikes. Russia's BTR-50 armored personnel carriers, created back in the 1950s, are lightly armored, weakly armored, and of great value to the occupiers due to the lack of modern technology, writes Forbes. A year ago, independent analysts noticed increased activity at the Kremlin's 1,295th Central Tank Repair and Storage Base in Arsenyev in Russia's Far East. There, technicians were repairing dozens of BTR-50s and returning them to service. We found 63 BTR-50s in 1,295, all of which were seized, and they appear to be in good condition. Analyst Haimased said, "There's about 2 battalions of equipment, transporters for hundreds of troops." However, Haimased said this as a negative trend. "I would expect more BTR-50 losses in the future." To date, the Oryx reconnaissance team has recorded the destruction of at least 10 of these vehicles. However, many remaining BTR-50s continue to serve in combat, often with additional armor to protect against drone attacks. Some have received new turrets to at least partially compensate for the design's shortcoming. These armored personnel carriers, which observers call museum pieces, are becoming increasingly visible on the front lines, but their use may be temporary. Armored vehicles, particularly the BTR-50, are gradually disappearing in a war where drones are playing an increasingly important role. The BTR-50, introduced in 1954, was powered by a diesel engine, weighed 15 tons, carried up to 20 men, and usually had only a heavy machine gun. Until 1966, it was the Soviet Army's main fighting vehicle. But with the introduction of the heavier and better armed BMP-1, thousands of BTR-50s were relegated to secondary units and then replaced by MT-LB tractors. By the end of 2022, only a few BTR-50s remained in the Russian army. Russia sees no need to completely replace its inventory of older vehicles and has instead adopted a hybrid approach to modernization. Lester Grau and Charles Bartels explained in The Russian Way of War. But the war has made its own adjustments. Massive losses, more than 15,000 units of armored vehicles and other weapons, have forced Russia to use old stocks, including the BTR-50, as well as civilian equipment for combat operations. This includes cars, minibuses, motorcycles, and even electric scooters, which are now often used to attack Ukrainian positions. Civilian vehicles have become a clear sign of the crisis in Russian manufacturing. Satellite images show that many bases are running low on equipment suitable for repair. Even 70-year-old BTR-50s are becoming scarce. This means that Russian troops will increasingly fight on foot. Every time Russian regiments try to attack with vehicles, the result is zero. One Russian blogger noted in a note translated by War Translated. But the infantry, with the support of artillery and drones, is gradually gaining an advantage. Due to the huge losses in military equipment that Russia suffered when it launched a full-scale war against Ukraine, the enemy began to go into battle in trucks, open golf carts, and even motorcycles. Earlier, it was also reported that the occupiers began using golf carts in their attacks. The enemy uses Chinese Desert Cross 1003 all-terrain vehicles, although they are positioned as rear transport.